If you're following Jesus but your life still feels full of trouble, listen carefully. You thought faith would mean fewer battles, fewer setbacks, less pain. But what if the trouble isn't a sign that something is wrong? What if it's proof that you're exactly where you're supposed to be? In John 16 verse 33, Jesus didn't promise comfort. He promised something far greater. And once you understand it, you'll stop fearing the storm and start seeing the victory inside it. Let's read it. I have told you these things, so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble. But take heart. I have overcome the world. Most of us predicted something different. We assumed that obedience would reduce resistance, that prayer would soften the battlefield, that surrender would simplify life. That's the prediction engine in our minds. We quietly conclude, if God is with me, life should get easier. But Jesus interrupts that expectation before it settles. He doesn't say, in this world you might have trouble. He doesn't say, if your faith is weak, you will have trouble. He says, in this world you will have trouble. Not maybe, not occasionally, not only when you fail. You will. And he says it calmly, intentionally, almost as if he's protecting them from a misunderstanding that could destroy them later. Think about when he said this. John 16 happens hours before the cross. Betrayal is coming. Arrest is coming. The disciples are about to scatter. Everything they believed was building toward visible victory is about to collapse. And in that moment, Jesus says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. Peace before pain, clarity before chaos, preparation before pressure. He is recalibrating their expectations so that when reality hits, they don't misinterpret it. Because unexpected suffering feels like abandonment, but expected suffering feels like preparation. We often equate trouble with distance from God. When things break down, we quietly wonder, did I miss something? Did I disappoint him? Did I step outside his will? But look at Scripture honestly. Joseph was faithful and imprisoned. David was anointed and hunted. Daniel was obedient and thrown into a den. Paul was called and beaten. Trouble didn't follow disobedience. It followed purpose. Prediction says, if God is with me, life will smooth out. Reality says, if God is with you, you become a threat. And threats generate resistance. Here's the deeper layer most of us miss. Jesus says, in me you may have peace. Then he says, in this world you will have trouble. Notice the locations. Peace is in him. Trouble is in the world. Two different realms. Same moment. He never promised peace in the world. He promised peace in himself. That means you can experience chaos around you and calm within you at the same time. You can stand in a storm externally while remaining anchored internally. That reframes everything. If your expectation was peace equals no problems, then trouble will feel like failure. But if your expectation shifts to peace equals presence, then trouble becomes a proving ground. Jesus didn't hide the hardship. He predicted it. He exposed it ahead of time so that when it came, the disciples wouldn't panic and assume the plan had collapsed. If trouble shocks you, it steals your stability. But if trouble confirms what Christ already said, it strengthens your trust. The storm doesn't mean Jesus was wrong. The storm proves Jesus was honest. And then comes the command, take heart. That is not a suggestion. That is not emotional advice. That is a directive. It means be courageous. Be confident. Stand firm. Why would he command courage in the middle of guaranteed trouble? Because of what he says next. I have overcome the world. Not I will. Not I'm trying. Not I might. I have. Victory stated before the cross has even happened. From our perspective in history, we know what's coming. Crucifixion, burial, resurrection. But when he spoke those words, the disciples had not yet seen the empty tomb. Jesus declares victory before the visible proof arrives. That means his authority is not reactive. It is sovereign. We think victory comes after the battle ends. Jesus says victory was secured before the battle began. So when trouble enters your life, you are not fighting to earn a win. You are standing inside a win that has already been accomplished. That changes your posture. You're not scrambling for survival. You're anchored in triumph. Let's zoom out for a moment. The disciples expected a political kingdom, immediate dominance, visible rule. They imagined triumph without trauma. Instead, they watched their teacher arrested, mocked, crucified. The sky went dark. Hope seemed buried. Prediction shattered. But 3 days later, resurrection. Reality elevated beyond imagination. Sometimes God allows temporary contradiction to produce eternal clarity. What feels like collapse may be construction. What looks like defeat may be strategic positioning. The storm is rarely the whole story. It is a chapter. And here is a truth we often avoid. Resistance does not automatically signal misalignment. The enemy does not attack what poses no threat. Darkness does not react to dim lights. When you move forward in obedience, when you step into purpose, when you deepen your prayer life, when you begin walking in calling, resistance can intensify. Not because you're off track, but because you're on it. Trouble can be confirmation. That doesn't mean every difficulty is divine endorsement, but it does mean we must stop interpreting every storm as a sign of God's absence. Now let's elevate one final layer. This verse is not ultimately about trouble. It is about perspective. Jesus is saying, you are evaluating your life from earth upward. I need you to evaluate it from heaven downward. The world measures peace by conditions. If circumstances are stable, then we are calm. If circumstances shake, we collapse. Jesus measures peace by position. In me, you have peace. In the world, you have trouble. Same moment. Two realities. If you anchor your peace to the world, it will fluctuate with headlines, diagnoses, finances, and relationships. If you anchor your peace to Christ, it rests on something that has already overcome the world. You thought faith would remove storms. Faith doesn't remove storms. Faith reveals who commands them. I have overcome the world. That includes fear. That includes systems of oppression. That includes sin. That includes death itself. So when you stand in difficulty, you are not standing in uncertainty. You are standing inside a victory that already happened. The storm may be loud, but the cross is louder. The resurrection is final. Take heart, not because life is easy, not because pain disappears, but because Christ is victorious. And if He has overcome the world, then nothing in your world can ultimately overcome you. So when trouble comes, and it will, do not panic. Remember the recalibration. This isn't evidence that something is wrong. It may be evidence that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Stand firm. Anchor deep. Take heart. He has already overcome.